Welcome to Ion Fusion. I'm your host, Christopher Barna. We're here talking Cleveland Fusion football. For those of you that may not know what or whom that is, it's our very own women's professional football team of the Women's Football Alliance. During this, our inaugural podcast, we'll be taking you through a brief history of the Cleveland Fusion and the direction they're headed. Today, I'm fortunate and excited to be joined by TJ Monachino, the owner and president of the Cleveland Fusion football team. And he just so happens to be my cousin. What a coincidence. Welcome, TJ.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing really, really good. I am really, truly excited to have you here on this, again, the inaugural. I said that right 2 times in a row.
I was very impressed. You're doing all amazing so far.
Oh, thank you. If you could, I would like to start off with a little bit of the history, maybe the history of the team.
Sure.
If you can give us an idea. Not a lot of people know about what the Cleveland Fusion is. I mean, we know what football is. We're just not familiar with the Women's Football Alliance or the team itself.
Yeah, well, you're not in the minority. We before we bought the team, we actually asked about 100 people if they had ever heard of the Fusion, and one person thought they did. So it is a very unknown sport, but it's been around for a long time. So I think we're in our 17th season, and the actual heyday of women's football was in the mid-'70s. So there was, I think, about a half a dozen teams, Cleveland being one of the inaugural teams, and they played full tackle women's football in the 70s. And it kind of died off for the next 2 or 3 decades. And then the Fusion was one of the inaugural teams, back to inaugural, and in a different league. But it was really kind of the big resurgence of women's football. And it was Cleveland, Pittsburgh, DC, Philly, and I'm sure a bunch more. But the team actually during those years was probably its most successful. So the owner of the Fusion was a lady who had no experience owning a team, but was an incredible marketer, and they ended up filling a roster of 60 and 30 reserves, and they had 1,000 or 2,000 people every single game, and they had tie-ins with the Browns. I mean, they were really, really, really doing it, and their success was something that was seen throughout the league, and it kind of went downhill from there. So we are the third or fourth owner of the team, and it just got harder and harder and harder to promote. I think something happened within women's sports that just led to a decline, and at the moment we're kind of on the way back up. And so I'm sure a ton of you guys remember there used to be a women's basketball team in Cleveland that used to pack the stadium.
The Rockers,
yep. And there used to be a lingerie league in Cleveland.
You got me there.
I don't know who they were, but they used to always pack the stadium. There's a team called the Akron Racers, which is women's softball, and they're the professional level league for that. And they used to have a couple thousand people a game. Well, the Rockers are gone, the LFL's gone, the Racers are gone and rebranded. And so the thing that is true is that it was an industry-wide thing. And the thing that's good, though, is that industry-wide, all of those sports are coming back. So you should see women's basketball having a heyday. I don't really follow the LFL anymore, but I'm sure they're doing okay. And I know softball is on its way up. They actually have the most teams they've ever had in the league, and they're going to be back in the Olympics in 2020.
Which that's huge for women's sports in general. Just the more opportunities they have on a national and a worldwide stage.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it for them is the last year they were in the Olympics was their best season in terms of attendance. It was their most, I guess the most inventory they had ever sold. It was a big year for the Racers, and since then it has really been a steady decline. But this, I think, just our general culture is changing, and people are watching more women's sports. marketers are putting more money towards women's sports and recognizing that you don't just have to invest in the male sports, and that there is value to the consumers that are showing up at those types of games. And because of that, the dollars are helping to build awareness. I mean, you can't market if you have no money. And so the millions of dollars that are finally flowing back in are starting to percolate throughout our culture, and I think people are starting to become a little more aware. So,
well, that's great. And, the kind of tie in like with going to the games and all that, it is a very family-friendly environment. Being able to go and just see everybody in the stands. I mean, we do want to try to get more, and that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to build that awareness. Is unfortunately, like you said, there's just the lack of knowledge that the league is even there. There's I think 60 teams in North America, not just the United States.
Yeah, we're almost at 70, and we are the largest of 3 leagues. So there's, outside of our league, there's probably another 20 to 25 teams. The winner of our league actually played internationally. They went to somewhere in Europe and played and won. And so this is not just a USA sort of thing. They're also every 4 years as nationals. So we sent 4 of our players to Canada, and the USA I actually won, which was pretty cool. And but there was teams from all over the world competing in full tackle women's football.
And we have a few all-stars on the Cleveland Fusion. Not even just a few. There's considerable amount, which are that's taken from not just North American teams, right? Isn't that the entire league?
Yeah, so it's the entire league. They pick, like kind of an A and B team, first and second team, pretty much. And I think 8 of our players were selected. And we're in a challenging time. So I said that women's football is kind of resurging. What that meant was that most of our players are from the heyday. And so by the time we ended up buying the team, I would say 50 to 60% of them were of retirement age. And last year and the year prior, really the 2 big years that we lost a significant amount of players. And so sending 8 was a big deal to us. Most of those players were new to the position they were playing, and it's a big accomplishment. I mean, we were not expecting that type of success. So
no, and that's very good. That's very good. No, that's the type of expectation though that we're getting to. That's if we have all-stars on the team, then they're going to help possibly recruit some rookies. We have quite a few rookies this year.
Yeah.
It's in the teens, no?
It is. So you've actually had the back-to-back years were the largest rookie classes that they've had since the inaugural first and second years. And so it's just one more, way that we've been able to see that this type of sport and women's sports in general are on the way back up. I mean, they had almost a decade of years where there might be the addition of 2 to 4 players. And, that when you pair it with, just the sport being dangerous and injuries and everything else, that is not sustainable. So being in the deep teens in terms of amount of players, and we still have a couple months left for recruiting, this will be by far the largest rookie class we've had in, like I said, 15 years.
And it was really nice. Last Saturday, forgive me if I get the date wrong, I believe it was October 13th.
Yes. Day for my birthday.
Yes.
Woo!
Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
They had the signing day at Mulberry's in Cleveland, which was a nice way to celebrate not only the veterans, the all-stars, but also the rookies. To give a nice little photo shoot. Annette Blackwell, the mayor of Maple Heights, also was in attendance. She is a very big proponent and a bit of an avenue that you guys have utilized in order to use that stadium in Maple Heights. I believe, what is the Mustangs?
Yep, Mustang Stadium. Yeah, they actually I have no idea how. They spent roughly $5 million on a stadium that, when compared to other high school stadiums, is like night and day. So they have a huge video board, which is a very rare thing. They have a massive radio booth with viewing spots for cameras. They have a huge AV system, so there's speakers throughout the entire facility, not just on the PA system. There's multiple concession stands, 5,000 seats, an incredible turf stadium field. It is top notch. And so what we said to them was, you have an incredible stadium that's completely underutilized, and we have a team that could use some help, and some help from a city that would get behind us to support us as their team. And so we talked to the mayor, and she agreed that Maple Heights needs something cool and different and exciting, and that this team could be just that. So they've provided a ton of help to keep us there, and the good thing is it's returned for them. I mean, we play 4 times a year, and on those days that we're playing, the music is playing, the bands are there, there's a lot going on, and dozens and dozens of people from the community just walk up to the gate going, what the heck is this? And they walk to the door not knowing before that there is a professional team playing, and they have a good time. So it's a win-win for everybody, and it's nice that she's really getting behind us.
And to add on to that wonderful facility that you could play in, the practice facility, the new indoor practice facility, well, not necessarily new, but the rec center, the availability of it is really nice, including the weight rooms.
Yep.
To be able to utilize that and do some type of off-season work. So you're keeping the conditioning and that mentality of hard work, got to keep pressing forward to get better, through the winter, because we can't, in Northeast Ohio, there's no way you're getting on a field and practicing out, in December, January. You have to have somewhere indoors. Yeah,
it's not happening. So it's kind of an unspoken rule that with all of these stadiums that are being built for these professional teams, they are usually committing to some sort of community reinvestment. So the Browns redid every single, I think it's high school or rec center field with turf and lights. And then the Cavs did the same thing for the basketball courts. So they redid all of the courts and painted all the walls and put new bumpers up. I mean, they have both spent millions and millions of dollars. And so in one of those rec centers, we did a similar thing and provided some equipment for the general weight room that the community uses. And then they also gave us the use of a room in their pool, which we then outfitted with equipment and hired trainers to help with all the off-season training, which is one of the big surprises for us. You would think that women could play football, but their bodies are built differently. And so what we have found was that we brought in a whole bunch of rookies who'd never played before. They get in the field, and a month in, and they're all hurt. And what we realized through our partnership with Metro was that their bodies are built different, and it takes a certain type of training to prepare their knees, and really just the muscles around most of their body to be able to play. So what we said this year was we're going to commit to that, and so we found a group of personal trainers who have built a program in partnership with Metro Health that will be directly built around our players and our needs. And then we have a nutritionist who's also helping to provide everything else beyond just the working out part of it to get us ready. And the thing that we know is that this program that we've built is no one else is doing it, and that regardless of how skilled our players that we will be far more prepared than anybody else. And so, yeah, we're excited. We're in a really good place.
Yeah, and keeping people healthy is more important, really, than anything else. The safety, health, that's what's really going to make it more intriguing and appealing to someone who maybe has thought about it or hasn't thought about it, and then now they see that they can. Longevity. You don't want to get hurt. You still have to keep your knees, your shoulders, your head, for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and that's the thing that was probably the most scary, was that there really was no focus on that. I mean, we had players who were using helmets from their inaugural year, and
6 now.
That meant that they were playing with helmets that were 10 or 15 years old, and they are supposed to be certified at least, I think, every year, at the very least every other year. So last year was our first year that we paid to have everybody's helmets pre-certified. We had a whole bunch of people's helmets who just had to be replaced, and that stuff has to happen. And so doing some of the helmet fitting that we've done, which they've never done, that women have different size heads than men, but they don't make a women's helmet, so it requires a fitter to come in and to do it the way it's supposed to be done, and so that had never been done. Same thing with some of the other pads. There's padding made for men, but there isn't for women. So we had to find and build the right padding. And so there's a lot that goes into making sure that this is a safe and lasting initiative, and so and people are worried about it, probably more than ever. So I'm glad that we've come as far as we have, because it is amazing that it went on for as long as it has. And the scary thing is that I think some of the underfunded teams aren't putting the type of focus that we are, and so I'm going to assume that they're probably in pretty not so great shape.
A little bit of dire straits, if you will.
Yeah. So, it definitely matters which team you play on. And our hope, really, one of the problem is that the league has so many teams that it makes it difficult to have one really great one. And so we're actually trying to push to reduce the amount of teams and to have everyone kind of work together. And so the resources aren't so split, and that we could just do it really, really well, a few times rather than, 75 times. And that's starting to happen. The good thing we've seen is that some of those other leagues aren't doing so well, and when they don't do well, teams leave, and when teams leave, it's like a domino effect. One of our biggest expenses is travel, and so because there's so many teams, we're not traveling usually so far. So we could be, sometimes going to New York City, which is a 10-hour bus ride, but we could also be going to Toledo, which is 2 hours. And so as people leave, the dominoes fall, and people just start leaving even faster because they can't afford to travel. So the upside is that we've gotten those teams that have left, and I think in some cases they're starting to kind of consolidate in. And so, I think it's on the right path to getting better. And the league is becoming, for once, I think, sustainable, which is an exciting thing.
That's great. That's great to hear. On that note, unless there's anything else you have to add?
Season starts April something. Haven't got our schedule yet, so sometime in April we'll be starting out, and we're really hoping this year is going to be even better than the last. So hope you come and see us.
Yeah. And you said you have 4 home games.
Yep,
four home games a year.
And with the squad we have, we should be in the playoffs. So we'll be playing deep into June. Let's hope.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us here in Ion Fusion. I really appreciate your time and and your energy. I appreciate you bringing that. Hopefully, we can get the word out, even to sponsors.
Yep.
Like you mentioned, Metro Health is one of your sponsors.
Yep.
Other sponsorship opportunities.
Yep, there are a ton.
And how can someone who might be interested in a sponsorship get in touch with the right person or in order to make that happen?
So on our website there is a sponsorship page, and there you can fill out request for sponsorship. They range all the way from, like I said, we have a team doctor and sports medicine people who work with us. That's Metro has taken on that part, but we have food sponsors who, providing either food or certain products that they want to sell. So, there are a million ways to help bring awareness to your business, and it's one of the things that, the thing that makes us unique is that your sponsorship is more than just, eyes and people seeing your brand. It's a statement, and you're saying to the people that work for you or your customers that you're invested in the success of women, and more so invested in the success of women doing things that our culture says they can't or shouldn't. And, that gives you some ground to stand on when you're going after a certain contract or trying to reach a certain demographic. And, I can promise you this, our sponsorships are less than the Browns. So, you can get there pretty easily. And, there's the good thing, that initiative and that strategy is we have dozens of sponsors who are saying, yeah, this makes sense to us. And we know that if we start now, it's only going to help us later. And with the initiatives that this organization is putting into place, that they're getting in early, And so, we encourage you to look at it if you're thinking about something like that. And, we're always willing to talk.
All right, thank you very much, TJ. Again, we're real excited for the Fusion to start playing again this coming April. And again, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Join us on Ion Fusion in our inaugural podcast.
7.
Woo!
All right, guys.